Hi everyone, Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
And it is week 2 for June, and we are reading I Think They Love You by Julian Winters.
We sure are. We are in the middle. So chapters 8 through 15.
Yep,
And this is the part where I started blushing. So
definitely. So, Denz spontaneously heads to Braylon's office to discuss what he's going to be wearing for the gala. But they end up ordering in food from the varsity. It's all very nostalgic. And Braylon gives him a tour of the office. And then some teens show up who are doing like a work study at the foundation and they recognize Denz because they all follow him on social media. And so it's all very like fangirl moment, which is really cute. And
yeah,
um
that
yeah,
seems
it's
kind
really
of
cute
surprised by it a little bit, but it seems like Braylon was aware
that they knew who he was.
that they knew him. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so on the way out to the car, Denz mistakes Braylon reaching to get some ketchup off of Denz's face as them about to kiss, and then he is like mortified, and so then he gets gone like fast. And so flash forward to the Valentine's Gala, and Bray is late. So late. At least the party is perfect otherwise, and so even the mayor's husband's allergy problem, which he didn't even know about, and apparently Cammy changed the menu and handled like without even telling him, which on one hand he's relieved and on the other hand he's pissed
Was
off because
annoyed.
he feels
Yeah.
like she should have mentioned it. Um, and then, his dad walks over and the aunties and they're all chatting. And finally, Braylon arrives in the clutch just in time to avoid his aunt's backup date for him, who is like an event planner at their rival company. And he's
Yeah.
like, why the hell? First of all, why the hell would you get me a backup date? Like, Braylon is, I told you he was coming. And second of
Yeah.
all, that guy from that other company, like, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little messy.
Very messy and so presumptuous, to be honest. So, Braylon, uh, they kind of improv the story of how they ran back into each other for the first time, for his family, and it actually goes okay. They kind of like play off of each other's like what they're saying, and then they run off to go talk to the mayor, which is, Den's holding up his end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Um, and also he kind of does the talking because Braylon, when he realizes that's what they're going to do, he kind of starts to freak out a little bit because he doesn't know what he's going to say to her. And Denz is like, here, like, let me help, right? So he brings him over there. Um,
Gets
he's,
them started kind of, but like
yeah,
Braylon is pretty charming.
yes.
It's
And
just
he's
that,
very passionate about his work too. So,
yeah,
yeah, once he feels comfortable, then he's like, he can handle it himself. Um, and so as they're walking over there, they kind of kiss, like for show, of course. Um, and he's
sure
like,
thing.
yeah, for show. And afterward, he's like, definitely not thinking about that. For sure, not thinking about that. Um, and so because right after Valentine's Day, they're still really busy. Denz jumps right back into planning for his dad's retirement party,
Yeah.
and for sure, still not thinking about the kiss. Nope, definitely not. And then he is
He
called.
keeps in his head being like, it's nothing. Like, this
Yeah,
is nothing. And that time that I almost, and that it's also like it
also
adds up
nothing.
to
Definitely
nothing.
nothing. Yeah. So then he gets called into his dad's office, and his dad reads him part of like a rave review about the gala, and basically says like, "Great job, but you were one mistake away from utter disaster, and like that can't happen."
Mhm.
And he basically tells Denz that he needs to figure his shit out or like step aside for somebody who's ready because this is like he's just lucky that went well, basically.
Yeah.
It's a brutal conversation, to be honest. And so as he's trying not to cry, like as he's leaving his dad's office, and he decides to go he to like leave. So he's over by the elevator waiting for it to come, and Cammy comes over and she's complaining about her event and the family that's throwing it and how much of a pain in the butt they are. And then she kind of looks at him and realizes that he's upset, and he says it's allergies, which is like a secret code they had when they were kids. When somebody in the family upset them and they were trying not to cry, that's like what they would say, so the other person would know not to try to like talk to them, you know?
Yeah. Like, don't be nice to me because
Right, because I'm about to lose it. Yeah. And so she starts to kind of back off, and she tries to commiserate with him a little bit about their dad, but it ends up in kind of an argument about why they each want the CEO job, and they both end up hurt by this conversation. Cammy basically says to him she thinks it's her dream but his fantasy, and of course he doesn't. He's like, what is that supposed to mean, you know? and and she tries to explain, but he can't listen right now. He was too upset already. Like, it was not a good time to get into this conversation. And he's like, I don't need your help, you know, and he leaves. And so 2 days later, uh, and Denz is still sulking
and
about the
it's really it's kind of
whole
sad
thing.
because I think he and his sister have always had each other's back.
Yes.
And so this is a situation where he doesn't feel like she can have his back,
Yeah.
but also
They're
some of
literally
the
on
stuff.
opposite sides for the first time, probably.
Yeah, and on some of the stuff that she says is very like, and you can see like in his head, he doesn't have any like she can't do it or anything
Right.
like
No,
that kind of thoughts. Like he
no.
doesn't think he's better for the job, but this conversation, I think to him makes it feel like she maybe does think that he's
Yeah.
not as good as her for the position or that he's not
Right.
like
And the thing
it.
is, as a reader, as you're going through this, you realize everything she's saying is true. And she's trying to help him, but he can't hear that right now. Like, he cannot accept that at all.
Yeah.
Um, and
Even the
so it's
stuff his
hard.
dad said to him was
Yeah.
not wrong. Like
Oh
it's
no,
just
it
that
was accurate. Yeah.
it's just that they know him and they're like sharp enough that he thinks he's like getting one
Getting
over,
away.
but
Right.
everybody sees what's happening. And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
he needs to be able to confront that because he's
Yes,
not,
absolutely.
he's not as slick as he thinks he is with some of
No,
this
for
stuff.
sure. And so yeah, 2 days later, he's still sulking on the couch, and Jamie is concerned. Jamie is about to go to work. But he kind of lets it slip that he went to an NBA game the night before with Jordan. And Denz is like, you went to a basketball game. Like, what? Like, he's very confused by this whole
Mm.
situation. And so he's still in the back of his mind, like something's tickling, like something's happening. But he's
Well,
like,
I was as a reader, it was funny to me because I was like, you went with Jordan, and he's like, you went to basketball, and I was like, wait, what?
that's the wrong part of that conversation. Yes, exactly. The wrong focus. I mean, it's not wrong. Like, it is shocking, I guess, that he went to a basketball game, but it's because he likes Jordan. Like, so
Yeah,
yeah, that was funny. And Den says to him, "That's great. Jordan needs friends." And Jamie kind of gets a weird look on his face, like, mm-hmm, you know? And
that's
again,
weird.
he's not really
But
clocking all this because he's too enmeshed in his own, like, drama that's happening. So later, Braylon texts about Den's teaching Braylon's office how to better handle their social media. But in the midst of texting, Bray actually video calls Den's because Bray's in the middle of cooking, and texting was a nightmare. So he's like, "Well, what are you cooking?" And Braylon's like, "A French toast grilled cheese, of course," which is his specialty. It's like the one thing he made and tried to teach Den's to make one time, which was a disaster. And Den's said he thinks it's the best thing he's ever eaten. And he's like, in his head, he's like, "I miss that sandwich." Not, definitely not Braylon, only the sandwich is like what he's trying to tell himself.
like, I still think about that
Yeah,
sandwich,
I
and
still
it's
think
like
about that
the
sandwich.
sandwich of
Yeah.
the day.
And honestly, I'm thinking about that sandwich. Like, the way it's described sounds amazing. I might have to
So
try it for myself.
funny story. And I may have told you this before. My mom used to, when she made us like French toast, it was a sandwich, like a
Like
croque
stuffed
monsieur
French
kind of
toast, kind
like,
of like, yeah.
pardon?
Like, so like stuff like a stuffed French toast,
It was kind of
basically.
like a
Like,
croque monsieur kind of, but it
yeah,
was, yeah, like she would make the thing, she would put like cheese and ham or whatever in it, and
yeah.
then like doot, 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 and
So
then cook
good.
it.
Love
But
it.
the Braylon, he makes French toast. So it's got the egg on both sides, like it's a full on
Yeah.
French toast, then puts bacon,
Bacon and
Gruyere,
Gruyere. Yeah.
Pacific cheese in there. He's very specific about the ratios.
Yep.
He retoasts it so everything's melty. I was like, this
It
sounds
sounds so good. It was making me hungry for real. Um, and so
well, it's making Denz hungry to like be on video chat with this. Also,
yes,
he's feeling
exactly.
gross.
Yes,
And
he's
so
feeling upset,
Braylon's
and
like, I
Braylon
mean, you
notices.
could
He's like, "What's
come
going
over.
on? Like, why are you like, what's wrong?" And Denz kind of tells him everything. You realize that as much as that moment previously when Braylon talks about how he doesn't have anybody to tell things to. Den's also, when it comes to a problem with his family, the only people he really has is his family and Jamie. So like there's some things he doesn't feel comfortable telling anybody either, and he just kind of unloads it all onto Braylon, which is what he always did in the past. Like that's what they were for each other. Um, about the meeting with his dad and the fight with Cammy and everything. And it feels good for him to finally like let some of that out.
But also,
Mhm.
there's like alarm bells dinging because he is like, fake, fake, fake. We are not. Like, why is it so
Right.
easy for me to do
Almost
this
all of
with
his
him?
relationships are surface level except for with his family. So it's freaking him out a little bit. And so Bray offers to make him a sandwich if he comes over. And so Denz agrees. And so he looks down at himself and he's like, "Oh my God, I gotta get cleaned up."
Like,
So,
at least a shower, maybe, before I
yes.
get over there.
And so then we get a flashback to 6 years ago in college, them cooking in Den's college apartment in Athens. Bray tried to teach him. It was an epic fail. But it is also the morning when they like declare their love for each other, which is very sweet.
His
And
death almost burns the house down. But
yeah,
also, I will say that for this, it was interesting because this was also a time when Bray told Denz about his mom and about
yes.
how she used to cook this for him when he was a kid. And then he found it in like a junk drawer. He found
Right,
like a
like he
little
found her
recipe book. So
recipes.
he was able to, and that he always wants it to kind of be perfect because it makes him feel like he's like his mom's there with
Like
him.
closer to her,
So
yeah.
it's
And also
really a
he's never tried to
special.
make it for anybody except for his dad until now. And that's when, you know, they exchange their love for each other, and it's really sweet. And um
So very, so then it's like the significance of the sandwich becomes like even the fact
it's
that he
like
FaceTimed
the
while he was
sandwich.
making it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know very many people that have like uh that sort of a
Yeah.
sentimental attachment to a
To like
particular,
a
I
food
mean,
item. Yeah.
there's nostalgic foods, but I don't think I've ever had like
Yeah.
the sandwich.
Um so Dens gets to Braylon's apartment. He finds it very minimalist. But Braylon's like, "Well, you're recruited to come help me find bar stools because I might have a guest soon."
And it's all your
Um
fault.
He finally took Denz's advice and contacted one of his old swim team friends. It was the one he was closest to in college, Lyle, and that was always Denz's favorite one too. So he's excited to hear that they are going to reconnect and catch up. And then Denz says to Braylon, "Tell me about London." And he basically says, he liked it. The people there were mostly nice. He had a cat for a while. He talks about that.
Well, he asked if he had any like any significant
Anybody
other
special?
people, and he was like, "Well, there was this guy, and it's a cat," which
Yes,
was really cute.
very cute. And Denz kind of says to him, London changed you. Like your accent, your clothes, even your name. And Braylon admits that his dad gave him his name, but his mom chose to call him Bray. And after his mom was gone, he decided to keep using it because it made him feel closer to her. But now that they're both gone, he's decided, that he likes his full name better, and that's what he wants to go by. And so it's another open moment about his family while they're making the sandwich.
Yeah.
Um, and so he asks Denz, "Why do you want to be CEO?" And Denz realizes he doesn't necessarily have like what he would consider a proper answer for that, just more like that's what he always thought would happen eventually kind of thing, not that he really like wants it so much.
A lot of like, this is the person I'm supposed to be. Like, this is
Right.
this is who I mean, I am my father's only son.
Yeah.
I
And he's
like,
always wanted to be
and
his dad. Like he's always emulated his dad and thought his dad was great. Um, but he is also scared to fail that he constantly screws things up anyway. That's like, and that's all the stuff that like his sister Cammy was talking about before. And Braylon kind of commiserates with that. He said he followed his dad's dream for his life and he was wrong to do that. Like that he didn't make the right choices. And he's like, I learned a lot about myself when I was in London, but I would have done it differently if I had to do it over. And I regret never telling my dad that, like how I really felt about everything that happened with that.
it's interesting at that point because Denz is like, he like, maybe this is about as close as an apologies I'm gonna get, but he
Yeah.
really wanted to hear that there was like regret there.
Yeah.
Um, and then he
Well,
does hear it, but it's like not quite
it's
and
not
not.
quite enough, except for Denz does say, I really liked your dad. And Braylon says he was a complicated man, but he loved you too. Like truly he did. And that was that was the first part that made me cry because um yeah, that was it was really sweet.
Yeah. And it just, you really, I think it takes, it's a talent in a writer, I think, to be able to put something that's, I mean, the conversation itself and the words themselves are so like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like he's trying too hard to make you feel anything,
Yeah.
but you definitely, I mean, like it hit.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
so like, well done, Julian Winters.
Yes, for sure. So of course, as they've been talking, they've kind of migrated closer to each other. Denz is sitting up on the counter, and Braylon is like in between his knees now at this point. And he kind of leans over and starts asking Denz, like, "Can I kiss you here? Can I kiss you here?" Because they talked about, no kissing without prior verbal consent. That's like part of their agreement. Um, and so
Interestingly,
he
like they're fully in private, so it's like
Yes. Yes. And so he starts, keep going until he gets to the point where he's like, "Can I kiss you down here?" And Denz is like, "We said no sex." And Braylon's like, "It's just a blowjob." And he's like, "No, they call it oral sex." And he's like, "No, it's fine." Like he's like,
he's
"I
like,
call it a
I call it
blowjob. Like
head.
no big deal, right?" Yeah. And so he does give him head and it's hot. And it's also funny because the whole time Denz keeps yelling out things that he hates about England, like while this is happening, and it is hilarious. And then afterward, Denz is in the bathroom trying not to panic. Uh, are things
It's
gonna
real
be
hard.
weird
It's
now?
real
Yeah.
hard when your fake relationship is making you feel things.
Is
And he's
making
like,
you feel things, yes. And he's like, "Are things gonna be weird now? Like, what are we gonna do?" So as he leaves the bathroom, Denz kind of spies something poking out from under the bed, and he's like, "Is that my old UGA sweatshirt that Braylon used to steal all the time?" And so Bray comes in shirtless at that moment and is like, "I got to get cleaned up too." And then he goes in the bathroom. And when he comes out, Denz is sitting on the bed holding the sweatshirt.
well, and Denz is originally, he, like, as soon as the door closes behind Braylon, Denz is like immediately like in a conundrum because he's like, I could just leave. Normally, I would just leave. And this is technically fake. So should I?
Right.
Maybe. But what he ends up doing is sitting on the bed and pulling out that
And
shirt
pulling out
and
the sweatshirt, and it is
not
the
going
shirt.
anywhere.
And so when Braylon comes out of the bathroom, he sees him holding it and he just says, "Oh." And Braylon says, like, "It was at my house when I was packing and I took it. I needed something in London to remind me of home." That's basically like how he explains it, and it's very swoony. And so they both
Also, like, I
agree,
guess it is yours, so I guess you should
right?
take
You
it,
could take
question
it.
mark. And
Immediate
and
no.
he's like, no, no.
Immediately no. Yeah, it's very sweet. And so they both agree that the blowjob was no big deal. Things are not going to get weird. Sure,
Means nothing.
sure, is what I wrote in my notes.
Absolutely nothing. Add up to zero.
Yes, means nothing.
Still
Totally
fair.
fine. I was
Everything's
just trying to
fake.
help you out. You were stressed, Don't you feel better now? Like, yeah, great, fine. So Denz agrees to teaching Braylon's coworkers about social media stuff. And so um Denz's week goes pretty well. He brings an apology muffin to Cammy. They talk a little bit. He lets her know that it really is his goal to be CEO. Like it's not just
A
like a fly
fantasy
by
that,
night thing,
yeah,
right? And so she's like, okay. And so then Braylon wonders if they shouldn't go, or I'm sorry, I wrote Bray, but that's wrong. Denz wonders if they shouldn't go back
yeah.
to planning weddings. Like that's what he's always kind of felt like. And Cammy doesn't agree. She says, like, yeah, that was good for us in the past, but like, I don't necessarily think that that's our future. Like, I think we've already moved past it. Like, there's no reason to go back. Also, there's bad memories for all of them back then because his dad was overworked, his mom was fed up, and they almost separated. And it was like a big problem, which is when he
But this is like
decided to get rid of
the
it.
the thing that no one talks about in their family is
Right.
that time
Yes.
because it was bad.
Because it was so bad. Yeah. And so Cammy asks about Braylon, and Dens can't help smiling like a little smitten kitten. And so she's like,
It's nothing.
yeah, it's nothing.
Don't worry.
So he goes to Jamie's work to have a drink and to like moan and groan about everything that's going on. And he tells Jamie about what happened with Braylon. And Jamie's like, I mean, I kind of don't really think that's a big deal. Like, I think you're making it into like a bigger thing than it is. Like, it's just head, who cares kind of thing. Like, he's very nonchalant about it. And he's like, why are you freaking out? And so Den's kind of to like avoid that question, offers Jamie a job working the bar at his dad's retirement party
Yeah.
because I guess there's a little backstory in here. Jamie's family is also rich, but they're very like not cool. Like
Like
they act like they're
bigoted.
fine with his like with who he is, but like their little country club set would say otherwise, and it's not. It's all very awkward. And
Like they're not cutting him off, but they're also not standing up for him when other people in their set are being.
are being horrible. Yes. And also when he does go through times of like not really talking to them, then he struggles financially. And Braylon, or I mean, Denz knows he won't just like take money from him, so he always tries to like do things like this, like get him a job at one of the parties or something like that, so that he's like helping him out.
Yeah. Because basically he
Um,
bartends. And even
yes.
though I'm sure that there are people who make good money doing that,
Yeah.
he's still, I feel like this is a group of people, like a cast of characters who
Hmm.
live in kind of like a fancy, like they're fancy people.
Yeah.
So he
So
having
yeah,
that
he
job would
doesn't
be
have
nice
enough
for
money to
him.
be fancy. He might have a better shot if he was like living somewhere less, yeah,
Yeah.
less fancy. So Denz and Braylon attend the engagement extravaganza that Cammy planned. Um, Cammy wants them to take photos, but Denz kind of begs off for Braylon's sake. He's like, he doesn't want his face out there, kind of thing. And the party is beautiful, but the family keeps getting drunker, and the speeches are becoming a bit of a shit show. And Denz asks him and Cammy are kind of commiserating in the back. They have their own little table, just the three of them. And he asks Cammy about her ideal engagement party. And she's like, well, hypothetically,
She's like
um,
very hypothetically,
very
not.
hypothetically, yes. She would want it to be really small, beautiful, but simple, like nothing like this, basically.
I mean,
And
these people wanted doves released at their engagement party
right. And she's
and to
like,
like
it's not even
arrive
the
by,
wedding. Like it's the
yeah.
engagement party. Like, what are you even talking about? Yeah. So later Denz is at the bar while Cammy and Bray are dancing. And Jordan comes by and says Braylon looks happy to be with all of them again. And Denz is like, what why do you say that? Like why do you say it like that? And Denz kind of realizes that like Bray Braylon doesn't really have anybody, and he always did get along with Denz's family, and Denz is realizing that his family is falling in love with Braylon again, and this is a fucking disaster
This is
because
the
this is supposed
problem.
to be fake. But then Braylon comes running over, a little bit freaked out. His boss is there. He's never lied to his boss before. He doesn't really like the idea of it, and Braylon and Denz is like, "This is no big deal. Like,
He's,
I'll handle
he,
this, right?" Yeah. So, Denz handles everything perfectly. The boss is very impressed. And so that all goes really well. And Nora, the boss, says how Braylon is up for a big promotion and a big move too, which I caught on to, but
I did.
apparently Denz didn't in that moment, or like was another one of those things where he's like, I can't deal with that right now, and like kept it moving. And so
He heard
then,
it, but it didn't because if he heard it because we're from his
right,
point of view,
yeah,
but it like did not register.
no,
Like he was like, "Yep, promotion. That's what we're working towards," and
right,
it was
exactly. It
like,
just kind of like went over his head. Yeah, exactly. So afterward, um, they decide to go dance and they kiss and it's all very cute and they both
"Mhm.
realize they're pretty drunk and they should not be driving anywhere, and it's a Saturday night and they're across town at the botanical gardens, like it would take
Yeah,
forever with the ride share, and they're like, we should just get a hotel. So they're gonna get one room, two beds. That's the plan, right? So I wrote LOL. So they get to the hotel and there's only one bed.
it is like the poor lady. I forgot what her name is, like
Yeah,
Keisha or something,
the
but
poor frazzled night manager.
she is like, this is the only spot we have,
Yes,
and then
one room, one king bed.
he is panicking and
Yes,
he is like, is there no way? Like
fully panicked.
like Bray, in the amount of time that he's been like asking in every like
Yes.
configuration,
Yes.
Braylon has like checked a 20-mile radius. And
And there's nothing
apparently
else.
Ed
Apparently
Sheeran
the NBA finals are happening or something. Like, yeah.
and NBA finals and Ed Sheeran concert all happening within like this
Yeah.
area. So like all everything is booked. There is nothing. And he's like, "Can we take the presidential suite?" And she's like, "I do have one bed, one
Right.
room with
A
a king
suite,
bed."
but still only one bed.
So, I mean, it's not the suite, it's the same room that she's been
Yeah.
telling him is the only one they have. And Braylon is like, "Yeah,
It's
we'll
fine.
take it."
We'll take it. Yes. And
So
so
he
they
puts
finally
his
agree. He says Denz should go up and order room service while he runs off to get some essentials. So Denz goes upstairs. Bray runs to the drugstore. Denz also has gotten himself some essentials from the hotel shop. They're in a little brown bag that's like taunting him from across the room, and he's trying not to pay attention
he's
to
not
it.
thinking about what's in there. He's like, "I hope
Yes.
nobody cares that I also went and got some things, but it's fine."
Yes, but never mind. So they have a veritable feast and they watch My Best Friend's Wedding, and it's Braylon's first time watching it. And Bray, afterward, he says his dad would have loved that movie, that he loved movies like that. And
Yeah.
Denz kind of waxes poetic about his love for rom-coms and why they mean so much to him, and it's really sweet. And then Denz goes to Braylon goes to shower and comes out um catching Denz still staring at the bag across the room. And
He's
Braylon's
looking,
like, "What's in that bag?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing, no big deal." And then he like,
but Den's like cleaned up while he was in there. Like he
yeah,
cleaned up
well, like,
the
yes,
food and he tried to like straighten up the
yes,
one cover that they have for their one bed.
yes,
And he's like, but he keeps like glancing back. And in
glancing
one
at
of
the
his
bag.
glances,
Yes.
here comes Braylon. And he's like, "What is even in that bag?"
And he's like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's fine. I'm gonna go clean up now." So Denz goes to get ready for bed. And he's touched when he gets in there because there's a lot of like travel size toiletries that he has to choose from. And because Braylon remembered that he hates the hotel ones, they always like make
Hmm.
his hand break out and stuff. Like it's very cute. And so he gets ready for bed and he walks out to see Bray has busted into the bag, and it's condoms and lube, of course. Braylon admits that his mind was in the same place. Um, and so it's on. So they decide how it's going to go and they get to it. And it's very emotional. It's very sexy. And then right afterward, Denz is like, "Oh, wow, I really need to go pee." And like rushes off to the bathroom. And it's awkward as hell. That's the end of the chapter. So, obviously there's more to come on that front, and we will talk about it all next week.
See you then.